The space station floated in the darkness between stars like a giant metal flower. Its name was Prime, and it was the largest trading station in the known galaxy. Ships from 100 different worlds came here every day. Strange creatures walked its halls. Strange languages filled its air. Strange money changed hands in its markets. On this particular day, a small ship approached the station. It was not impressive. It was not large. It did not have powerful weapons or beautiful decorations. The ship was gray and simple, and the words Earth Diplomatic Vessel 7 were painted on its side in white letters. Inside the station's control room, an officer watched the ship approach. There were tall creatures, almost like insects but much bigger. They had 4 arms, hard shells on their bodies, and large eyes that could see in many directions at once. This officer's name was, and he had worked at the station for 20 years. "Another human ship," he said to his assistant. His voice was clicking and buzzing, but his translator device made the words clear. "They are early for the meeting." His assistant, a younger, looked at the data screen. Earth vessel, 3 crew members, diplomatic mission. He made a sound that was like laughing. "Heavy. I heard they can barely walk without special suits." Clicked his mandibles in agreement. "Sad creatures. Their planet tries to crush them every moment of their lives. I am surprised they survived long enough to reach the stars." The small Earthship slowly moved into docking bay 17. The bay was large enough to hold 50 ships, but today it held only 3. The human vessel looked tiny and weak next to the elegant trading ships. Inside the Earthship, Captain Park checked his equipment one final time. He was 34 years old, with short black hair and calm dark eyes. His body was strong from years of military training, but he did not look special. He looked like an ordinary man. This was something the aliens always failed to understand about humans. They looked ordinary. They seemed ordinary, but they were not ordinary at all. "Captain, we have permission to dock," said Lee from the pilot's seat. Was younger than only 26, with a quick smile and clever hands. He had been flying ships since he was 18, and there was nobody trusted more at the controls. "Good, take us in slowly, let them watch." Ambassador stood near the back of the small bridge, reading information on her. She was 53 years old, with gray streaks in her black hair and lines around her eyes from years of smiling and frowning and thinking hard about difficult problems. She had been a diplomat for 30 years, and she had negotiated with criminals, kings, and now aliens. "The High Trade Minister will meet us on their observation deck," she said. "His name is, he controls most of the trade agreements in this sector." She looked up at. "He also has a reputation for being difficult." Nodded. "Difficult how?" "He enjoys making other species feel small. He likes to remind everyone that they were traveling between stars when most species were still learning to make fire." His voice was calm, but could see the steel in her eyes. "He has never negotiated with humans before. He probably thinks this will be easy." The ship shuddered gently as it connected to the docking bay. Through the windows, they could see the inside of the station. It was beautiful in a strange way. The walls curved like the inside of a shell. The lights were soft and blue. Everything looked clean and perfect and very, very alien. "Compression suits on," ordered. The 3 humans put on their special suits. These suits were important. The space station's gravity was much weaker than Earth's gravity. On Earth, gravity pulled everything down with strong, constant force. It made things heavy. It made bones strong. It made muscles work hard every second of every day. But here on the station, the gravity was less than half of Earth's. Without the compression suits, the humans would feel strange. Their movements would be too fast, too strong. They might accidentally hurt themselves or break something. The suits pressed against their bodies, making their muscles work harder. This way they could move normally, like they were still on Earth. Sargent was waiting for them at the airlock. She was the security officer for this mission. She was 30 years old, with her hair pulled back tight and eyes that never stopped watching. She had been a soldier for 12 years, and she had fought in 3 different conflicts on Earth before joining the space program. She did not talk much, but when she did, people listened. "The station guards are waiting outside," reported. 6. "They are armed, but the weapons are holstered. They seem relaxed." "They do not see us as a threat," said. "No," agreed, "they do not." Looked at his small team. 3 humans about to walk into a station filled with aliens who thought Earth was a joke, who thought humans were weak, slow, and stupid, who had no idea what it really meant to grow up on a heavy world. "Remember," he said quietly, "we are here to make friends, not enemies, but we are also here to show them that Earth deserves respect. We will be polite, we will be patient, but we will not be pushed around." Smiled, "Well said, Captain." Took a deep breath. "Let's go meet some aliens." The airlock door opened with a soft hiss. Blue light spilled into the ship. Strange smells filled the air, like flowers and metal and something electric. The sounds of the station washed over them, clicks and buzzes and hums from 100 different machines and creatures. Captain Park stepped forward into the unknown. Behind him, his team followed. None of them knew that, in just a few hours, the entire galaxy would learn to fear the children of the heavy world. But that moment was coming, and when it arrived, nothing would ever be the same again. The observation deck of Prime was the most beautiful room that any of the humans had ever seen. The walls were made of clear material, stronger than any glass on Earth, and through them the humans could see the endless darkness of space. Stars burned in the distance like tiny fires. A purple and pink nebula swirled slowly, painting the darkness with color. It was like standing inside a painting of the universe. But the humans did not have time to enjoy the view. The room was full of aliens, and all of them were staring. There were of course, dozens of them, tall and frightening with their insect-like bodies and many arms. Their hard shells were different colors, showing their rank and family. Some were dark blue, some were green, some were the color of old blood. They clicked and buzzed as the humans entered, their large eyes watching every movement. There were also the reptile creatures with scales and long tails. They moved slowly and carefully, their cold blood making them patient and calm. Their eyes were yellow with black slits like snakes. They did not blink, and this made them very unsettling to look at. Floating near the ceiling were the beings made of gas and light. They had no solid bodies. They were like clouds with minds, changing shape and color as they communicated. Nobody really understood not even the other aliens. And there were others too, small creatures and large ones, beings with too many legs and beings with no legs at all. The galaxy was full of strange life, and many of its strangest examples were here today. At the center of the room stood High Trade Minister. He was the largest that had ever seen, standing more than 3 meters tall. His shell was pure black, polished until it reflected the starlight. His forearms were thick with muscle, and his mandibles were decorated with small golden rings. He looked like a king, and he knew it. "The humans arrive," said. His voice was deep and clicking, but his translator made the words smooth and cold. "Welcome to Prime. We are curious about your species." Ambassador stepped forward and bowed slightly. "Thank you, High Trade Minister. Earth is honored to be here. We hope that this meeting will be the beginning of a long friendship between our peoples." Made a sound that might have been laughing. "Friendship, yes, that is a nice word." He turned to look at the other aliens in the room. "Tell me, Ambassador, do you know why we are curious about humans?" Kept her face calm. "I would be happy to learn." "Because," said slowly, "you should not exist." A murmur went through the room. The representative, a large reptile named Commander, slid forward. His scales made a dry sound against the floor. "The High Trade Minister speaks truth," said. His voice was hissing and slow. "Your planet is wrong. The gravity is too strong. The radiation from your sun is too high. Your world is covered with salt water that most species cannot drink. Poison plants grow everywhere. Dangerous animals fill every corner. He bared his teeth in what might have been a smile. Earth is what we call a death world. Nothing should live there, but somehow you do. We are survivors, said simply. You are freaks, said a from the crowd. Several aliens laughed. Raised one of his arms for silence. Please, let us be polite. The humans cannot help where they were born. He looked down at and the others with his huge dark eyes. I have read about your world. Your gravity is almost 3 times our standard. This means that every moment of your lives you are being crushed. Your hearts must work 3 times harder than ours. Your bones must be 3 times stronger just to stand. Your muscles must constantly fight against your own planet. He leaned closer and could smell something like burnt sugar on his breath. How sad, said softly, how very sad to be born in a prison, to spend your entire life just trying not to be crushed by your own world. He straightened up and spoke louder so everyone could hear. This is why humans are so slow, so weak, so limited. They use all their energy just existing. There is nothing left for thinking, for building, for creating. More laughter from the crowd. A near the back made a joke in his own language, and his friends hissed with amusement. Lee's hands tightened into fists at his sides. Sergeant's eyes were cold and hard, but they said nothing. They waited. We have achieved much, said, her voice still calm and pleasant. We have built cities, created art, developed science. We reached the stars. After how long? Asked. Your species is over 200,000 years old. You only reached space in the last century. That had starships when your ancestors were still afraid of fire. He clicked his mandibles in amusement. You are children, slow, heavy children from a cruel world. Commander spoke again. I have seen recordings of humans moving. It is like watching someone walk through deep water. Everything is so difficult for them. He looked at. Tell me, human, does it hurt? Does every step cause pain? Met the reptile's yellow eyes without looking away. No, he said quietly, it does not hurt. Then you are used to the pain, said. You have lived with it so long that you do not even notice it anymore. How tragic. Nodded in agreement. We invited you here today because we believe all species deserve a chance, even the unfortunate ones, even the species that nature tried to destroy. He gestured with all 4 arms at the grand room around them. Perhaps, with our help, humanity can finally escape the prison of Earth. Perhaps we can teach you how to live without constantly fighting for survival. The room was silent now. All the aliens were watching, waiting to see how the humans would respond to this generous offer. Captain Park looked at for a long moment. Then he looked at the floor beneath his feet. It was made of one of the strongest materials in the galaxy. It was used to build warship armor. It was used to construct space stations. It was supposed to be unbreakable. Looked back up at the High Trade Minister. Perhaps, he said, his voice soft and dangerous, a demonstration would be educational. And in that moment, everything changed. The observation deck became very quiet, tilted his large head to one side, his dark eyes studying the human captain with new interest. A demonstration, the High Trade Minister asked. What kind of demonstration could you offer, little human? Will you show us how difficult it is for you to lift a cup? Will you show us how hard you breathe after climbing stairs? Laughter rippled through the crowd again, but it was nervous laughter now. Something in his voice had made them uncomfortable. Something in the way he stood, calm and still like a rock in a stream, made them wonder if they had made a mistake. You believe that Earth's gravity makes us weak, said. He began to walk slowly around the room, and the aliens moved out of his way without thinking about it. You believe that growing up under constant pressure has made us slow and limited. You look at us and see victims of our planet. He stopped in the center of the room, surrounded by creatures twice his size. He should have looked small. He should have looked afraid. But he did not. He looked like a man who knew a secret that nobody else knew. But you have made an error in your thinking, continued. A very big error. You see, pressure does not always create weakness. Sometimes pressure creates strength. Commander made a hissing sound. Pretty words, but words do not change facts. Your species is physically inferior. This is science, not opinion. Nodded slowly. You are correct that humans are different. Our muscles are denser than yours. Our bones are thicker and harder. Our hearts are powerful pumps that work constantly, pushing blood through bodies that resist every movement. He paused. But you have only seen humans operating under Earth conditions. You have never seen what happens when we are released. Ambassador stepped forward. She knew what was planning and she was not sure if it was wise. But she also knew that sometimes wisdom was not enough. Sometimes you needed to make a statement that could not be ignored. Captain, she said, are you certain about this? Yes, Ambassador, I am certain. Began to remove his diplomatic jacket. Beneath it, he wore the gray compression suit that all humans wore in low-gravity environments. The suit was covered with thin lines and small lights, showing where the technology pressed against his body. What is he doing? I asked. I do not know, another answered. Perhaps he is surrendering. Watched with growing confusion. Human, explain yourself. What is this demonstration? Held up his arm, showing a small device attached to his wrist. This is the control unit for my compression suit. The suit creates artificial resistance, making my body work as hard as it would on Earth. It keeps my muscles and bones from becoming lazy in your low gravity. He looked at the device, then looked at. Without this suit, my body would operate at full Earth strength in your weak gravity. His yellow eyes narrowed. Full Earth strength, what does that mean? On Earth, explained, a human must work hard just to stand, just to walk, just to lift their arm. We do not think about it because we have done it our entire lives. But every movement, every breath, every heartbeat is a fight against gravity. He smiled, and it was not a friendly smile. Now imagine what happens when that fight suddenly becomes easy, when the resistance disappears, when all that strength built over millions of years of evolution is suddenly free. The room was completely silent now. Even the had stopped their constant movement. Everyone was watching the human captain. Sergeant understood what was about to happen. She moved closer to her hand near her own wrist device. If the captain was going to do this, she would do it too. They had trained together. They had fought together. They would face this moment together. You want to remove your compression suit? Asked. He sounded confused and slightly worried. That would make you weaker, would it not? Without resistance, your muscles would. He stopped talking. His compound eyes grew wider. He was beginning to understand. Without resistance, finished for him, my muscles would not have anything holding them back. Lee also understood now. His mouth fell open slightly. He had grown up on Earth, running and jumping and playing sports like any normal child. He had never thought about how hard his body worked every day. It was just normal. But now, standing in this room full of creatures who lived their entire lives in gravity less than half of Earth's, he finally understood what it meant to be human. They were not weak. They were not victims. They were something else entirely. Minister, Ambassador said, her voice steady, I must warn you that what Captain Park is about to show you may cause some damage to your station. We will, of course, pay for any repairs. Laughed, but it was an uncertain laugh. Damage from one human. This deck is made of. It was designed to survive meteor impacts. One small human cannot. Captain said, proceed with your demonstration. Nodded once. He looked down at the control device on his wrist. The small screen showed his compression suit operating at 100%, creating enough resistance to match Earth's gravity. All he had to do was turn it off. He looked up at, on Earth, we have a saying, do not judge a book by its cover. It means that you cannot know something's true nature just by looking at it. We have a similar saying, replied. His voice was less confident now. Then perhaps you should have remembered it, said. He pressed the button. The compression suit went silent. The tiny motors that had been working constantly to hold his body back stopped their quiet humming. The artificial gravity field that had surrounded him like invisible chains disappeared. and Captain Park, son of Earth, child of a heavy world, was finally free. For a moment nothing happened, stood perfectly still, feeling the change wash over his body. It was like taking off a heavy backpack after carrying it for years. It was like stepping out of deep water onto dry land. It was like being born again. His muscles, trained since childhood to operate under Earth's crushing gravity, suddenly found themselves with nothing to push against. His legs, strong enough to carry his weight up mountains on Earth, now had to carry less than half that weight. His arms, powerful enough to lift and throw and fight on his home world, were now operating in an environment where everything weighed almost nothing. He felt strong, stronger than he had ever felt in his entire life. Lifted his foot and stepped down. The sound that followed was like thunder in a small room. The deck, the unbreakable material that could survive meteor impacts and weapon fire, cracked beneath his boot. Lines spread outward from his foot like a spider web made of broken metal. The crack was deep and real, and everyone in the room saw it happen. Nobody made a sound, nobody moved, nobody breathed. Took another step. The crack grew larger. More lines spread across the floor. A piece of the size of a dinner plate broke free and fell into the space beneath the deck. The sound of it breaking was sharp and final. "Impossible," Commander whispered. His yellow eyes were wide with something that looked very much like fear. "That material is rated to withstand." Took another step and stopped talking. The floor cracked again, and again. Each footstep left a mark. Each movement proved that everything the aliens believed about humans was wrong. "You see," said, his voice calm and casual as if he was taking a walk in a park, "when you evolved in low gravity, your bodies adapted to that environment. You became tall and light. Your bones became thin and hollow. Your muscles became efficient but weak." He walked toward, and the mighty trade minister actually stepped backward. "But we evolved differently. We evolved to fight. Every day, every hour, every second, we fight against our own planet, and that fight made us strong." He was standing directly in front of now. The floor around him was destroyed, cracked and broken like old ice on a frozen lake. The alien leader looked down at the human, and for the first time in his long life, felt small. "Our children," continued, "learn to walk while carrying their full body weight. Your children float. Our elderly climb mountains for fun. Your elderly can barely stand in Earth gravity." He smiled, and now the smile was almost kind, almost gentle. "We are not weak, Minister. We are not limited. We are not victims of our planet." He lifted his hand and placed it flat against his chest. The alien froze. With just a small push, could send the huge creature flying across the room. They both knew it. "We are the product of our planet," said softly. "We are compressed strength. We are stored power. And when you release us from our gravity, we become something that you cannot imagine." Behind, Sargent had also turned off her compression suit. She walked to a decorative sculpture that sat on a pedestal near the wall. The sculpture was made of heavy metal, carved into the shape of some alien creature. Earlier that day, had watched 6 workers struggle to carry it into position. Picked it up with one hand. She turned it over, looking at it with mild curiosity, like someone examining an interesting rock they found on a beach. "This is nice," she said. "What is it supposed to be?" Nobody answered her. The who had laughed at humans just minutes ago were now pressing against the walls, trying to get as far away from the humans as possible. The had stopped moving entirely, their reptile instincts telling them to freeze when facing a predator. Even the had changed color, their cloudy bodies turning a shade of gray that might have meant shock or fear. Lee was the last to turn off his compression suit. He did not crack the floor or lift heavy objects. He simply jumped. He jumped higher than any of the aliens had ever seen anyone jump. He flew through the air like a bird, rising up and up until he almost touched the ceiling of the observation deck. Then he landed, light and easy, bending his knees to absorb the impact that barely existed in this weak gravity. On Earth, said, that would have been a normal jump, maybe a little low actually. The room was silent for a long time. The only sounds were the quiet settling of the broken floor and the soft breathing of hundreds of shocked aliens. Finally, Ambassador stepped forward. Her compression suit was still active. She moved normally, carefully, diplomatically. She stopped next to and looked up at the trembling High Trade Minister. "We did not come here to frighten you," she said. Her voice was warm and professional. "We came here to trade, to build relationships, to join your galactic community as equals." She paused to let the word sink in. Equals, not servants, not children, not victims, equals. "But we will not be laughed at," she continued. We will not be treated as less than what we are." She gestured at the broken floor, at holding the heavy sculpture, at standing proudly after his incredible jump. "This is what we are. This is what Earth creates. This is what it means to be human." She looked around the room at all the silent, staring aliens. "Now," she said, "shall we begin our negotiations?" The news spread faster than light itself. Within hours of the demonstration, every connected world in the galaxy had seen the footage. The video of Captain Park cracking the unbreakable deck was played millions of times. Scientists wrote papers about it. Military leaders held emergency meetings. Ordinary aliens watched in amazement and fear as a single human walked through supposedly indestructible material like it was thin ice. They called it the incident. Some called it the human awakening. A few, mostly the species who had always suspected that Earth was special, simply called it the step. The negotiations that followed were very different from what had planned. He had expected to offer humanity a small place in galactic society, a seat at the children's table where they could watch and learn from their betters. Instead, he found himself negotiating with equals, with people who could, if they wanted, tear his station apart with their bare hands. Ambassador was brilliant in the meetings that followed. She did not threaten. She did not brag. She simply stated facts and made reasonable requests. But everyone in the room knew what was behind her polite words. They had seen what humans could do when they were not holding themselves back. The Galactic Commerce Accord was signed 3 days later. Earth received full trading rights, access to advanced technology, and recognition as a major galactic power. In exchange, humanity promised to use its strength wisely and to help protect weaker species from threats. It was a fair deal for everyone. 6 months after the incident, the galaxy had changed in ways nobody had expected. Human workers were in high demand everywhere. They could lift loads that required machines for other species. They could survive accidents that would kill anyone else. They could work in environments that were too dangerous for alien bodies. Captain Park, now promoted to Commodore, stood on the new observation deck of Prime. The old deck had been completely replaced after his demonstration. The new one was built with special reinforced materials designed to handle human visitors. A small sign near the entrance said, in several languages, "Human-rated floor. Please enjoy your visit." Lee walked up to stand beside him. The young pilot had become famous in the months since the demonstration. Videos of his incredible jump had been viewed billions of times. Children of many species tried to copy him, usually with disappointing results. "They have formally requested human military trainers," said, reading from his. "They want to learn how to fight like us. They think they can build machines to give them our strength." Smiled. "They can build machines, but machines break. Our strength comes from inside, from millions of years of evolution. You cannot copy that in a factory. They want to license Earth's agricultural technology. They are very interested in how we grow food in such harsh conditions." "That makes sense. Their planet is cold and dry. They could learn much from us." Scrolled through more messages, and they have sent another request. He paused, and a strange expression crossed his face. "They want to experience the sensation of being gently thrown." Turned to look at his friend, being thrown. "I think they want to know what it feels like to fly through the air," shrugged. They are beings made of gas. They float everywhere. They have never experienced sudden movement. They find it interesting. Thought about this for a moment, then laughed. It was a warm, genuine laugh that made smile too. Tell them we will see what we can do. Below the observation deck, in one of the station's recreation areas, Sargent was sitting at a table. Across from her sat three, their four arms locked with her two in a complicated arm wrestling contest. She was winning, but slowly, giving them hope that they might somehow pull her arm down. They would not succeed, could beat all three of them easily, but she had learned that sometimes it was better to let others feel strong. It made them happy, and happy aliens were easier to work with than scared ones. A young child approached the table, watching with wonder in his large compound eyes. He was only about 1 meter tall, still growing into his adult shell. "Excuse me," the child said, his translator making his clicking voice sound like a young boy. "Are you really from Earth?" Looked at him and smiled. It was not a scary smile. It was the smile of an aunt or a grandmother, kind and warm. "Yes, little one, I am from Earth." "Is it true that your planet tries to crush you?" "In a way, yes. Our gravity is very strong." The child's eyes went even wider. "And you survived, you grew up there." Nodded. "I did. All humans do. We run and play and build things just like children everywhere. We just do it while carrying more weight than you can imagine." The child was quiet for a moment, thinking hard. Then he asked, "Does that mean humans are the strongest species in the galaxy?" Thought about the question carefully before answering. Strength meant many things. Physical strength was only one kind. There was also strength of mind, strength of heart, strength of spirit. "We are strong in some ways," she said finally. "But every species has its own strength. They have their cooperation and their hives. They have their patience and their wisdom. They have their, whatever they have." She winked at the child. "Humans have our bodies trained by a heavy world, but strength alone is not enough. You also need kindness and wisdom and the courage to use your strength to help others instead of hurt them." The child nodded seriously, as if she had said something very important. Perhaps she had. Ambassador joined Commodore on the observation deck. She looked tired but happy. The negotiations were finally complete, and Earth had achieved everything it had hoped for and more. "The Galactic Council has officially recognized Earth as a major power," she said. "We have seats on all the important committees. We have access to technology that will advance our civilization by centuries. And we have something even more important." "What is that?" asked. "Respect." Looked out at the stars, at the swirling nebula, at the endless possibilities of the universe. They do not laugh at us anymore. They do not pity us. They see us as we truly are. Nodded. "And what are we, Ambassador? What are humans, really?" Thought about the question for a long time. She thought about Earth, that beautiful blue planet with its heavy gravity and dangerous weather and incredible life. She thought about the billions of humans living there, each one carrying the weight of their world on their shoulders every day without complaint. She thought about the children playing in parks, the elderly climbing mountains, the athletes and artists and scientists, all of them products of a planet that tried to crush them from birth. "We are survivors," she said finally. "We are fighters. We are the children of a heavy world who refuse to be beaten down." She smiled. "We are compressed strength, waiting for room to expand. And now, finally, we have the whole galaxy to grow into." Outside the observation deck, the stars burned on, indifferent to the small dramas of living things. But on Prime, and on 1,000 other stations and planets across the galaxy, everyone was talking about the humans from Earth. The heavy, the death, the people who had turned their planet's curse into the greatest blessing the galaxy had ever seen. The universe would never look at humanity the same way again. And somewhere on Earth, children ran and jumped and played under the heavy sky, building the strength that would one day carry them to the stars. They did not know that they were special. They did not know that their bodies were extraordinary. To them, life was just normal. But the galaxy knew better now. The galaxy understood. Humanity had arrived, and nothing would ever be the same again.